Good evening and welcome to the February Council meeting for Wodonga City Council, the first one for 2024. I'd like to start with acknowledgement of country. Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of the country and as traditional custodians of the land. We respect their ancestors, elders and young people and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country. Apologies, we have Councillor Simpendorfer on leave of absence and all other councillors are present. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Councillor Chamberlain.
I have a material conflict on item 8.2, 5, 6 and 7 and I have submitted that in writing to the CEO accordingly. Thank you.
And I have a conflict on the same item, 8.2. Confirmation of the minutes. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Hall, do I have a seconder? Councillor Chamberlain, any comment in relation to the minutes? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next item is question time, and there are no questions that have been lodged. There are no petitions that have been received, and there are no delegates' reports. Moving to item 8, which are reports for determination. And the first item, 8.1, is the quarterly update to the Minister for Local Government. Do I have a motion? Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain.
Can I be a bit cynical in saying this is interesting that the Minister wants a quarterly update on what we're trying to do. We've been very open about our efforts to ensure that we do comply with the Local Government Act and that we have a safe and healthy work environment for everybody in the council, including our staff and our CEO. And I think we have to comply. We need to send them an update, tell them what we've been doing. Fair.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Hall.
Sorry.
Councillor Hall.
Sorry. I'd like to reserve my
Okay. Councillor Hall, reserve. Any other councillors? Councillor Lowe, question.
All good. Question 3, Mr. Mayor, to the CEO. Just for clarity, from when that response was tabled prior to publication in the agenda, did we receive any other feedback from the councillors other than what was discussed at the briefing, and has there been any other changes?
Mr. CEO.
Through the Chair, Councillor Poulton, no, we didn't receive any further feedback on that matter. Thank you.
Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't be supporting the recommendation as it stands this evening. There's one main sticking point for me, and that is that we're requested to give quarterly updates to the Minister, and this particular update reflects upon prior matters to the quarterly request, and truly the response for this quarter should be we've taken no action, and rightly so. We've probably been on a shutdown where we haven't worked together as councillors for 6 or 7 weeks in most of that 3 months. And what I'm worried about here is we're going to have to request, or we've requested to supply quarterly updates, so we're going to have to do another one in 3 months from now. We can't bail up this same letter again, which is all stuff that's been corresponded to the Minister and the department in the past. So with that being the case, the fact that we've done nothing in this quarter I'd suggest that the letter should probably say, thank you, Minister, we've done nothing. Hopefully we'll have done more in the next quarter. So I won't be supporting this one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be supporting the update that we have prepared for this quarter. I will not argue with the fact that this has been a quiet quarter and not much has happened, and we have had a Christmas break. Some councillors have had their well-deserved time off and leave, and while I do love taking leave myself every now and again, I would like to point out that we have had reduced numbers at the briefings. We haven't had a full number of council for the briefing for a while, and while briefings are not compulsory for attendance, it usually helps to for the majority of councillors to, barring any circumstances like medical appointments, etc., it usually helps to come and contribute towards the update to the minister. Personally, I'm satisfied how things have progressed this quarter. While quiet, we have been working together reasonably well. At the end of every briefing, we have a review by one of the councillors of how we went, and I think we have achieved a few things in this quarter, and we have endeavored and been productive. Perhaps every quarter is too frequent. However, I will be supporting the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
I haven't actually given this much thought until just some discussion around the table, and mainly due to the fact is because I'm kind of over it. I signed up to be a councillor to have that long-term strategic stuff and do that. So I'll actually be supporting the document because the minister's asked for a letter. I don't think the letter actually addresses what the minister's asked for. But as Councillor Poulton said, I don't think if you actually truly based it on the last quarter, that you can't really put anything in the letter. So whilst I acknowledge what you say and has been written in the letter, I'm going to support the letter because I don't think there's anything other than not doing that. So I look forward to working with you all and getting good outcomes for our community. That's what I look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Just a couple of things to put into some perspective. The first thing is, when we received the letter from the Minister, there was some consternation as to exactly what the Minister was asking for, and our CEO approached the department head and the Minister to seek some clarity on that, and I think it was just before we broke for Christmas, or maybe just after we come back, we received information from the department outlining the series of questions that we needed to answer and respond to. And those questions were, by and large, looking back to the things that had transpired even as far as 12 months ago. So we've responded, or I should say, thank you to our staff who have assisted in responding and putting together the information that's contained in the letter after consultation with the council at a briefing meeting and in direct response to the things that the department head has provided to our CEO as the information that was required. So in the context of all those things, I think we've done what we need to do and what we've been asked to do for this quarter, and I'm sure the next quarter's response will need to deal with what we do in the quarter from March onwards. So I think we're on the right track. We might not have got this perfect, and there might be extraneous matters that interact with it along the way. But I think we're on the right track, particularly given that we weren't really sure of what was being asked of us in the first instance, and we've had that clarification from the department, and I think we've managed to deal with that in a reasonably good way. Councillor Hall, you're reserved.
Yes. So as Councillor Chamberlain said, this was a request by the Minister. And look, what we've done is it provides dates and details around correspondence and action steps taken and adopted by Council in addressing concerns or issues listed by the Minister. I believe the Council, which is councillors, have been working well together. Of course, we'll always have differences of opinions and views amongst us, and that's as usual with any working group. All councillors have had every opportunity to give feedback or to add to the report and update being sent to the Minister. We had Christmas period, we had the letter requesting we do a report every 3 months just before Christmas, I believe. And then we had the break over Christmas. We've only had 5 briefings since then, concluding today, and not one of those briefings have we had all councillors available. So, but there's been given every opportunity through emails and agenda items that we've had in our docs on tap, to be able to add to it if they didn't like something or didn't cover something that they thought needed to be covered. And I think to come in at this late minute and say that, that wasn't so, is a bit far-fetched. You've had every opportunity. I mean, this is such a transparent document. It gives the full actions of what we've done and correspondence over 12 months. And I really don't think there's much more we can do. So, I'll be supporting this reply to the Minister.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Yeah, thank you. As I stated at the beginning, I'm a little cynical about the reasons for why we were asked to send this back to the Minister's office. Given the fact that we've had some, let's say, differences of opinion with the Minister's office at various stages on some other issues, I was wondering whether or not that had something to do with it. Having said that, we have complied. They did send us a structure as to what they wanted answered. We have answered, although there's been a fair bit in this quarter of, as Councillor Poulton said, business as usual, because we'd already addressed most of those issues in the previous time. I, like Councillor Lowe, am somewhat over this process. It distracts from the business we should be doing. And of course, we've got to keep track of what we do and our governance and keeping our staff and councillors safe. And I think we're going a long way towards that, and I believe we've worked quite well together, both with the staff and with other councillors, and we will continue to do so as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Councillor Quilty, Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Hall, Councillor Lowe. Those against? Councillor Poulton. The motion is carried. The next item, I've got a conflict of interest and will vacate the chair and vacate the room. The conflict I have is I have incomplete permit applications currently before council. Councillor Chamberlain.
As stated previously, I also have a conflict of interest on this item. That's been stated as a material conflict. It's been stated in writing and submitted to the CEO. Happy with that?
Councillors, as we no longer have the Mayor and Deputy Mayor in the meeting, I'll take nominations and seconder for chair of this part of the meeting. Councillor Poulton, are you willing to accept that nomination? No? Thank you. Can I have a further nomination for chair?
Councillor Quilty.
Councillor Quilty, are you willing to take that nomination?
Generally, I don't like chairing things because
Just need to-
What's the use of this microphone? Generally, I do not like taking the nominations, firstly, because I'm not a good chair, and secondly, because it reduces the speaking opportunity. But I don't want to keep throwing it around, so I will do my best.
Can I have a seconder for that nomination? Thank you. Okay, any other nominations for chair? On the basis there's no other nominations, congratulations, Councillor Quilty. Would you like to take the chair?
Thank you. The CEO has just suggested a very reasonable thing to do, which I would like to propose. I would like to propose to split this item into two parts. First part where a councillor, where Mildred and Councillor Chamberlain have a conflict, and discuss that. And then this, which is items 5, 6, and 7. Is that correct, of the recommendation? And in part 2, we can discuss items 1 to 4 upon the return of those who have conflict of interest. Would anyone, thank you, would anyone like to move this motion? Councillor Lowe, and second? So we don't speak to that.
Take a vote first to get that through. So it's,
Okay, everyone in favor, please? Councillor Lowe, Councillor Hall, Councillor Quilty, everyone against? Councillor Poulton. The motion is carried, so we are splitting into two parts. And firstly, we debate and vote items 5, 6, and 7, which are compliance and enforcement service review. I did say I was a terrible chair, didn't I? No, okay, so may I have a motion to discuss as recommendation items 5, 6, and 7, which deal with the compliance and enforcement service review? Thank you, Councillor Poulton, and seconder? Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Okay, so Councillor Poulton, as per recommendation? Would you like to speak to him? Thank you. How do I? God, this is.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have been thrown under the bus by your colleagues. The Compliance and Enforcement Service Review was conducted and went before the Finance and Budget Delegated Committee. It's pretty straightforward. It made a lot of sense. And what I will say, though, is unfortunately now it looks like the wheels have fallen off the wagon of the Finance, Budget and Delegated Committee. We're only a few months into it. We're already having a predicament like this to chew up time and slow things down. But those parts of the recommendation will receive my support. And I want to make sure that in the future perhaps we don't come to a dysfunctional moment like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Lowe. Anyone else wishes to speak?
Written this up a bit differently, so we've got economic service development, compliance, enforcement service. Look, I don't have much to add to this. I'm going to support the recommendation there, and this was with our Finance and Budget Delegated Committee, with the minutes and what have you. And if you had have got online, you could have had a look and listened to what we were dealing with at the time. It's sort of in the report here as well. I'll tell you one thing though, that the Finance and Budget Committee has been an excellent conduit to looking into further information required to develop our budget, and I think it's something that was an excellent thing that Council's adopted, and look forward to our next meeting and briefing on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Lowe. You have reserved.
Other than I wanted to hear everyone speak, I think it's gone through an extensive review. It's here for us to know. There's an obvious ask in there, which I fully support, on the training of another staff member. I think education and progression and pathways are the way to go in any organisation, so I fully support that. But I've got nothing much more to add than that, to other than I support it as well. Thank you.
I will take the vote on this one and hopefully... you've got to close. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quilty. Council Lowe did pick up, and it is just a little bit disjointed for those that are perhaps in the gallery or perhaps watching at home. It is a little bit disjointed the way we've gone about this. Unfortunately, we've had to split the compliance and enforcement service review out because our Mayor and Deputy Mayor had conflicts. The same thing did happen in our Finance and Budget Delegated Committee, which is okay. So I'll cut them some slack. They had to get out for that particular item. And it's sensible. It makes total sense. And I think thinking music perhaps next time, because there's a few awkward pauses. Thank you. Thanks very much, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I will now take the vote, please. Everybody in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, I think I've got my head around what's going on. Thank you, Olga, for sitting in the chair. I understand that part 2 has not been resolved and that we need a motion to deal with part 2. So do I have a motion? Councillor Quilty?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move a motion to now deal with parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, and 11 of the original recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall. Any discussion on that motion? No discussion. I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Now, do I have a motion in respect to those items? Given that the motion, even if we've had it twice, given that the second motion was to deal with it, now we better deal with it. So if it's been dealt with before, perhaps we just repeat what went before, but let's do it. So can I have a motion in respect to those items, please? Councillor Quilty.
As per recommendation, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't speak at length because the matters have been dealt with extensively at our Finance and Budget Delegated Committee. Just briefly, in items 1 to 4 of the original recommendation, we are talking about the economic development review. That was an internal review that was before that was a review of an internal service. It talks a little bit to the service reviewed in the service catalogue performed by our economic development department. The decision was made to maintain the the recommendation in the report was to maintain the existing staffing structure while strategically shifting towards enhancing Wodonga's international and national profile. I think economic development is a very important part of what we do here. Wodonga has a lot of potential, and I see it as a start of our economic development endeavors. The report will be displayed for community feedback for 21 days, and we are sincerely hoping to get lots of feedback. The other part of the recommendation is to do with the sustainability service review, which contains the proposed scope of work, and it was also dealt with at the Finance and Budget Committee meeting with the minutes attached. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hall. Other councillors? Councillor Hall.
Yes, I don't have much to offer, but what we had in our Finance Budget Committee on the 29th of the 1st, the minutes, these are just being received, tabled and adopted. We addressed, some of the items addressed in our meeting were the rate cap, financial sustainability review, service catalogue, economic development service and strategy review, which Councillor Quilty has mentioned, the compliance and enforcement service review, which we've talked about, the Lake Hume Reserves service review and the outcomes, the sustainability service review and proposed scope of works, and the Valley Views Estate proposed declaration of special charges, which will come up later in the agenda. The Finance and Budget Committee is a council delegated committee for those who are not aware. It's where all councillors are on the committee as members. The committee has given the councillors more opportunity to look at our council's financial position, having more information provided to us, and gives us a greater opportunity to put input in and a broader understanding of our budget and how we build that budget going forward. The information to the committee is very important, and the information will kickstart us putting together the 2024-25 budget, and also gives us direction for future budgets going forward. So I think having this committee has probably been one of the best things that we've ever done as a council, because it does give us that opportunity. All councillors were in attendance for the meeting, so I think it's worthwhile for anyone that's interested to have a look at the minutes and have a bit of a more detailed look at what was discussed and what was decided. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Quilty to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Apart from the decision made around the sustainability service review and the economic development review, the minutes of the Finance and Budget Delegated Committee also include the report on our financial sustainability, which is different kind of sustainability review, and also a catalogue of 41 or 42 services that the council provides with a short description and roughly how much it costs our community. It's all out for public display, and it's a good place for us to start planning our next budget. I encourage the community to familiarize themselves with the documents. The documents are lengthy. Everyone is welcome to contact the councillors for any questions and give us feedback as part of the budget process as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next item of business is item 8.3, Albury Wodonga Hospital advocacy. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall, Councillor Chamberlain.
Hospital advocacy, although the hospital decision and what works go on at the hospital is not a decision of this council, I still believe that this is possibly the most important work that we're going to do in this term of council, certainly in my time. I think that the way forward, or the way we've plotted forward, in which case we're going to have a health summit on the 1st of March, which I think will be important. It will be engaging a number of people from all levels of government, with the possible noted exception of the Victorian Health Department, to come in and actually talk about what our area needs are going to be in the future. And I'm hoping that a sideline of that will point out that our needs will quite probably not be met by what they're planning to give us in the way of a hospital redevelopment. I hope that this summit doesn't turn into yet another talk fest with no real outcomes from it, and I hope it's not politicised in any way, because I think this health stuff and this hospital advocacy should be, and at the moment is, well above politics. We're talking about the health of our people in Albury Wodonga and the surrounding areas over the next 30, 40 years. And I'll repeat again, I think this is the most important work we do, even though we have no formal decision-making process in that. So again, my recommendation is that we continue on with this stuff and put a strong, strong case for the health of the people of Albury Wodonga and surrounding area. Thank you.
Councillor Hall.
I reserve, thanks.
Councillor Hall, reserve. Any other councillors? Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be supporting the recommendation as it's outlined. I just want to state a couple of its observations. The first observation is, thank goodness there's not a brick wall in sight, because I'd probably be belting my head against it, expecting a different outcome. It still bamboozles me that a hospital redevelopment on New South Wales soil is having Victorian money pumped into it, while a Victorian council can't get traction to even have a conversation or get attendance at something so significant as the Health Summit on the 1st of March. For anybody that hasn't quite figured it out yet, it certainly makes local government feel a little insignificant in the grand scheme of things. We are told to work with our community, advocate on behalf of them. There's legislation on how we should act, how we should do that, what our role is. And as Councillor Chamberlain pointed out, it's not our role to build a hospital. But dare try to engage and be part of a solution, whether it could be the same solution. We might end up getting on page, but if you're not going to engage, then I am actually, for probably one of the only times in my life, lost for words with this entire situation. I think in the last couple of weeks, we've now seen that we're losing, well, we've lost our stronghold and our strategic advantage as a council before we've even had our health summit, in my view. And we've pretty much been ragdolled from multiple fronts to almost try to threaten us into retreat, it almost feels like. But fortunately, this organisation's done exactly what the community's told we should do for them. Fortunately, we've kept fighting. But I think we'd be fools to believe that we're going to have any substantial impact on decisions that are already substantially made before we even knew about them. So sorry to get a little negative on this. Power to everybody coming together for the Health Summit. But I think with the state that oversees our operations, that should be looking after 43, 45, 47,000 and more Victorian people in a better way and listening to their concerns. It's just downright disgusting, and you've just got to ask, is that the best we can do in a country like Australia? Not too sure it is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Portman. Other councillors? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I must admit, a big part, I share the sentiment that Councillor Chamberlain and Councillor Poulton have described. Look, when I moved to Australia almost 20 years ago, I could never have thought that a local government would have to lodge a freedom of information request to get the documents that they have the full right to see on behalf of their community, and that request be ignored, and that council would have to complain about having the request of information ignored. Also, while I congratulate my colleagues on the council and our staff for all the efforts towards the summit we're going to have on the 1st of March, I am appalled to see this gaping hole in the presence of Victorian government. Honestly, allow me to become a little bit metaphorical here, please. Some space explorers wonder if there are any forms of life in outer space. And it seems to me that people in Spring Street are fairly sure there are no forms of life worth worrying about outside the outer suburbs of Melbourne. This is what it looks like to me at the moment. And I'm trying to stay optimistic, and I once again congratulate everybody who continues to work on it and to stay optimistic on this. I wish us all best of luck. It's better to be rich and healthy than to be unwell and poor. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Lowe.
Pardon me. I echo my fellow councillors' words in all of what they have said. But I'll probably have a slight twist on Councillor Poulton's. I think we are having an impact. Yeah, we are banging our heads against a brick wall, but we're putting a big dent in that brick wall. And the reason why I know that is because of our state government's inability to acknowledge us, their inability to answer our questions, okay, because they know they don't have the answers for us. So instead of being upfront, coming to communicate with our community, they're giving us, their silence is deafening. Their silence is deafening. And we need to, as rightly pointed out before, advocate for our community. And it's the health of this community that's at the major risk at the moment. So that's why we won't and we shouldn't give up, because it's our community that we're talking for. But it's not just the health of our community, it's also the staff that work in, I've met staff that are working 6, 7, 8 days a week in a row because they can't get people in to relieve them. And our staff over there do an amazing job, and they just keep putting their hand up, they keep going. But you can't keep asking staff to go that extra yard. We need to support, and both sides of the river need to come together and support those that are working in it, because it's those who's working in it that are going to make our community healthier. So I'll be fully supportive, and I can't wait to the Health Summit. And I think Councillor Poulton pointed out one day he'd rather give up his chair at the Health Summit to have somebody there that is important and it can act on our behalf. And I'll echo that statement too, that because I agree with that. Rather than me take up a chair there, I'd rather give it to someone else that may have bigger strings than what we can pull. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. There's a whole range of things that need to be said, and many of them have just been said. Many of them have been said over the last 12 or 18 months or 2 years or even before that. The momentum has been absolutely increasing, and like Councillor Lowe, I think we are having an impact. I don't know where that impact's going to lead and what the outcomes might be, and it might be that we have to look at different ways and different things, and it might be that we find some negatives come before we get to the positives. But we can't give up. We can't give up. The things that we've got in front of us for health services to this region, and I'm talking about a region of over 300,000 people. It's not just Albury and Wodonga cities, the municipalities. It's much wider than that. We've got the whole hinterland and the district that covers over 300,000 people to deal with and to think about. We have to have a health service that meets our needs, that takes the best advantage of the opportunities that are being presented in this region. And there are some unique opportunities in this region, including the introduction of cooperation between the military and our health services, and probably equally as importantly, the things that come with tertiary institution connectivity to our health services. The increase in what we can produce from that is greater than the sum of the parts. And we have huge opportunities that are being absolutely left aside and not even taken into account. We're getting down into the nitty-gritty things that are in the weeds, and we're not dealing with the big picture opportunities that are being presented. It's time to deal with those opportunities, and it is extremely disappointing that Albury Council have taken the view that they're only looking at the existing site. It is even more disappointing that the Victorian State Government won't even participate in the conversation to look for a better health service for this region. It's not just about the hospital as it stands or the proposed development works as they stand, although that's the catalyst. This is such a big picture thing that we need to be looking at the long-term strategic future of what health is in this region and how it can impact positively on the impacts or on the things that go for health services that are provided in Melbourne, Sydney and Canberra, because the lower the standard of health service we have here, the greater the input we have or the greater impact we have on the health services in those three major cities. We have to send people off to those places if we can't provide the service here. And at the moment, we're not taking the opportunities that are available to us to take all those services and place them in place here. It costs money. I understand all that. We need infrastructure in place to do it. We need to find the best outcome, the best way of producing that infrastructure that is cost effective and works for the long term of this community. Our role is advocacy. I accept what's been said about that. We do have a role, statutory role, to be advocates for good health services and for good health outcomes in our community. We have to have in place certain plans and things that relate to health. This is just another part of that process. I'll leave it at that. I think, Councillor Hall, you're reserved.
Yeah, first I'd just like to say I agree with the other councillors' comments, and I'd like to thank Councillor Lowe and our Mayor for your positive words, which is what we do need at this time. The purpose of this report is to inform councillors and the community of the progress with some key actions that have been undertaken regarding the advocacy for improving health services in our region, a single-sited hospital and a proposed redevelopment of the Albury campus. Wodonga Council has long maintained its stance on the importance of providing the Albury Wodonga region with a service by Albury Wodonga Health with access to top-tier healthcare services that cater to both present and future requirements in a close proximity to their residents. We as a council care about our community. We also care about our regional communities as well. It is my view if we would ask our people what would be the number one item that they would support in our region, I believe that would be having the best healthcare service and facilities made available to them. The quality of our healthcare affects all ages, all people from every demographic. Travelling long distance to access quality healthcare is just not on with the catchment of the size of ours, which is over 300,000 people. We should not have to expect a second-rate healthcare services and facilities in this region. These views are why Wodonga Council's gone out on a limb to really advocate hard for what our community deserves in this region. Combined, our communities add hundreds of millions of dollars to taxpayers, to the revenue bank accounts of the Victorian, New South Wales government, as well as the federal government. We deserve better, and we should be getting more. I thank those who have been invited to the summit and are taking the time out of their busy schedules to attend. They will be held up as, icons in our region because we need people to stand up for us. And if they won't stand up, if our governments won't stand up, we need to, we really need to do something about it. And advocacy is the only way that we've got. And having high-profile people that will support our way going forward and support us as a community is vital. So this summit's, I think, is a bit of a, it's a very important place we're at, and we need the community and everyone to get on board. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Thank you. I only want to reiterate what I said earlier. I thank the councillors for their comments and their support in this statement. And yes, Councillor Poulton, sometimes it feels like you're bashing your head against the wall. But as has been pointed out by Councillor Lowe, if you need to knock that wall down, you need to use whatever you can. And if it's my head, well, so be it. It's not that pretty anyway. Now, the other thing that I wanted to note that Councillor Quilty pointed out was the fact that we put in a submission for freedom of information to the Victorian Information Commission. And we've sent in a formal complaint because that has not been responded to, which I think is just disgraceful. But it also shows that the silence means they haven't got an answer. And they haven't got an answer because this was a flawed plan from the beginning. It was money before plan, which is just ridiculous. And it almost smacks to me, and if you want to play political, it was both sides of politics on both sides of the border, of a case of how little can we spend to get this to go away as a state government election issue. and we're going to be suffering the consequences of it for decades to come. It's not good enough. We still don't know what they're going to build or how they're going to go about it. And clearly, the health outcomes for our community are going to suffer. That's the reason for this health summit. We need to point out what those health outcomes need to be, put that to the governments and say you need to supply to this agenda, not to a figure amount that came up before an election without any consultation. So if that seems political, so be it. And can I suggest, if I want to go that far, that one of the earlier issues on this agenda tonight about the fact that we have to report to the state government about how we're working together. If you want to have a look at how we work together on this, we've been 100% in lockstep all the way. And I hope we continue to carry on forward with that together. Thank you. Sorry.
Councillor Lowe, do you wish to move to suspend standing orders?
Yeah, can I please move to suspend standing orders?
Sorry. Councillor Lowe, would you like to speak first, given that orders are suspended?
Thank you. And I just needed to point something out, and the only way to do that was to suspend standing orders at the moment. But if you don't plan properly, and I'm going to give you an example. There's a car park that they built at Albury-based hospital over there. Now, they've built that car park to replace the car parks that were taken away by the enlargement of the emergency department, which it actually hasn't done that. It hasn't given them more car parks there. The other big thing is when you don't plan something properly, they've planned this car park, but they haven't planned for the safety of the people using it. So my thing is, if they can't actually get a car park right, how are they going to get the whole hospital right? So to get yourself out of that car park, you have to walk through the boom gates where vehicles enter and exit. So it's just a simple statement, something to think about.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Any other councillors while we're in suspended standing orders? Councillor Poulton, do you wish to speak?
Mr. Mayor, it might be best that I don't. I will appreciate Councillor Lowe's blatantly obvious, perhaps blatantly obvious to some predicament. What I will add, though, is the intent of Wodonga Council taking the lead on this particular matter was to support our health service and to make sure they were respected by absolutely every person under the sun, to make sure they got what they deserve and what everybody deserves for staff, for residents, for visitors, right? I know I've had a child in a Cairns hospital, 15 minutes, stitches in the back of the head, out, removal tool, letter for the airline, the whole lot back. Guarantee every time one of my 5 children's ended up in our emergency ward, it's not been 15 minutes. Any parent who's ever had to attend a hospital with a sick child, regardless of what it's for, you kind of want to get in and out pretty quick, particularly if you've got other kids waiting for you at home to do other things. So I think it's a slap in the face for a council that said, you know what, we believe in a health service. Yes, it's been less than ideal with some of its decisions and progresses over years gone by, and there's boards and CEOs and all the rest that have changed. Lots of those changed over the years. But to think that council put themselves out to rally the community and get behind something, and they've in recent weeks gone, no thanks, we won't participate. I just think that's so disgusting and disrespectful. But Again, I wish all those well with their long careers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Other councillors wish to speak? One moment. Thank you, Councillor Poulton. There's one other thing that I would like to put into the conversation, and hopefully we can get out and we send off to the Minister again, but I would with great respect, request the Victorian State Government to have a representative attend the summit on the 1st of March. It can be a parliamentary secretary, it can be a deputy, it can be a secretary of the Department of Health, it can be, you know, a senior official, but for not to be represented at this summit shows huge disrespect for our community, and I think it's almost a plea for the state government to participate. Put all the differences aside, put any of the different, you know, objectives and politics that might be at play, put all that aside and please attend to make this summit work to get a better health outcome. As Councillor Poulton has just said, we've sought from the start to get a better health outcome for our community, our 300,000 odd community. And that has been the driving force and the agenda behind the actions of this council. Sure, there's been differences of opinion across a whole range of different things, which is healthy to get the right outcome, but we need to now deal with this in the appropriate forum, which is the Health Summit, and take this to the point where we get what we need to get put in place, where we can join all three levels of government to come together and create something that is appropriate for our community. Your motion, do I have a seconder? Councillor Lowe. No discussion. I'll put that motion to resume standing orders. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I put the motion. All those in favour of the original motion? Carried unanimously. Okay, councillors, back to the agenda and back to the item 8.4, which is Valley Views Estate Proposed Declaration of a Special Charge. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Hall, recommendation? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Quilty, Councillor Hall.
Yep, this item's been an ongoing issue at council for some time, and we've had many discussions about it over a long period of time. I believe the recommendation put up in the report is the best way forward. We've discussed all different options, but I think this is the best way forward. The proposed declaration of a special rate will go out to the community for engagement, and any submissions received will be reported back for council for a final determination on the matter. Look, it's never easy making decisions on things like this, but I don't see a way forward, and I think what's been put in the report's probably the only way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty. Councillor Quilty reserved. Any other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, this is a difficult one, and I'm certain there are going to be some members, you know, residents of Valley Views Estate who are not going to be necessarily happy with this as an outcome. However, we've put it back in the hands of those people to try and give them a way forward, give them an option to be able to get this sorted out and finalised. Again, that's what it's about, is to give them some sort of definition in the future as to how they can get around this. Or not around it, actually get through it, more to the point. Yeah, I can understand that it won't be popular with some people, but they will have their right to have a say about what they think, and it will come down to a democratic process as to how many people are for it and how many are not. And hopefully they can get this sorted out and move it on, because it has been going on for years and that's way too long. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had this one before the Finance Budget Delegated Committee, this particular topic of conversation, so we've got the recommendation before us tonight. I actually voted against it in that committee meeting, and I've given it some thought since. I'm totally appreciative of how councillors have come down the line of doing this, and I think there's got to be a line in the sand. What I'm really worried about is the division that's already been in the community being replicated just in reverse. So at the moment, we're trying to pick a horse in the race, or heads or tails, as to who we're going to upset the most. And I don't think I've got like the silver bullet, the thing that's going to fix it all. But I just can't support it just based on the feel. It's it's the feel. I have no other way of saying. I was going to quote a bit out of that famous Aussie movie, The Castle. The feel of this is there's going to be more agitation in that particular sector of the community that I just don't. I don't want to see. I don't want to be a part of. I'd like neighbourhoods to work together, find a solution, and council to be proactive in obviously working that through. It's not the first time we're going to have a split on decision, but as I said, I respect my colleagues. I think that this is a way to put a line in the sand and figure out which way we need to go. But I'm just worried about particularly cost of living and different bits and pieces, and who might live out there, and what the implications are should this go 51 to 50. I know that's not the numbers, but let's just say by 1%, and we're part of a substantial divide within a pocket of the community, and potentially one with financial ramifications on those that haven't chosen to have those put on them. So for those very, hopefully clear reasons, I can't support that we continue down this path. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Portman. Other councillors? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be supporting the motion tonight. Just would like to remind that what exactly we are voting for tonight is authorizing our Chief Executive Officer to give the public notice and to have this out for public consultation, and at the end of community engagement, and to have the community engagement results reported to us. I, for one, support this decision, even though we're not voting on the decision. In my system of beliefs, this creates not divide, but an opportunity for the interest group, putting something in people's hands a bit more, and a bit out of the local government's hands, or the entire residents of the city hands. I have been in situations many times in my life when I wished I could just pay a little bit more and have my problem solved. And I hope that the majority of the residents of the estate feel the same way. I hope that there are no hard feelings between the neighbors or between the residents and the council at the end of this process. Solution is needed. Residents need the solution, and I believe this is the most efficient way to achieve one. Thank you.
Councillor Hall to close.
Okay, if we don't support this recommendation tonight, I really don't know where we're going to go. It's been back and forward at council, it's been discussed for a long, long time. We need a way forward. We would be at a stalemate again, and I'm really not keen to do that. I want to be able to give the community that community opportunity for a way forward. It's going out for a community engagement process. So if there's some really strong support or not support, I encourage the resident to put it forward, and we'll look at it. But this is a way forward, and we've looked at so many different avenues with this, and I think it's the best way. So I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Lowe, Councillor Hall, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Quilty. Those against? Councillor Poulton. The Next item is item 8.5, adoption of the Wodonga Environment and Community Protection Local Law. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain, as recommended. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Poulton, Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, it's a requirement that we review our local laws at various stages. This one's due. It needs to be updated. Generally speaking, it's business as usual. There is a track changes attachment there, which will show what minor changes and adjustments have been done. There was some comment in the local media about the possibility of fining people who are sleeping rough because they're homeless. That law and that possibility has been in the local laws for a very, very long time, and as far as I'm aware, no one has ever been fined, because our staff and our people, the last thing they want to do is be finding someone who can't afford it anyway because they're homeless. But we need to have that available in order to make sure that we have the ability and the facility to help them, to intervene, and maybe get them the help they need and head them on to the agencies that can give them the assistance they require. As someone pointed out in one of our previous conversations on this, if we did away with that section of the law, how happy would you be if you found someone camped in a tent on your front nature strip who decided they were going to stay there for weeks on end and not move? Inappropriate. The law needs to be there. But the judicious application of the law is absolutely critical in this, and I'm confident that our staff are trained well enough and have the right moral codes to make sure that these laws, all of them, not just that one, are applied effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Poulton. Thank you. Councillor Poulton reserves. Any other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
Nothing to add, but just I'd like to echo Councillor Chamberlain's words. I think he summed it up really well, and in light of, you know, an example Councillor Poulton gave in the briefing today, I think the law definitely needs to be here, but it's all about the discretionary judicial system of it. So, yeah, I'll be supporting tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Other councillors? Councillor Hall.
Yes, back in November 2023, council meeting to approve of this document to go out for exhibition and comment for 28 days. We did receive some submissions, and there was also some minor changes done to the document as recommended by Maddox lawyers. There's some changes around our penalty unit amount. We haven't had an increase in that for over 10 years, but it's more in line with what the Act and legislation has, Local Government Act 2020. Also, the submissions around the camping, like both Councillor Chamberlain and Lowe said, has created some issues with homelessness. Council officers are very mindful and would always undertake to assist anyone in this position to find help and with our local welfare agencies. In my view, is that the council local enforcement officers need to have that ability to move people on. If we don't have those laws in place to do so, the unintended consequences of not having the appropriate laws to do so would rise to campers possibly placing themselves on Willow Park or any other public-owned land. The report in the agenda that the council officers have provided gives them a really good explanation of what council allows and the possible consequences if we don't have those laws in place to deal with those sort of issues. And I think the report does a good job explaining the policy around this. So, you know, we're not out there to give the hard line on everyone if someone's in a time of difficulties. But I know from past, there's been up where I live on what's that hill, McFarlane's Hill. They had some people up there, and you know there was issues with that. And I think you just need to be able to move people on if there are some, you know, homeless is just one of them. It can be other types of people too that just take advantage of being able to set up camp wherever they want. And, you know, we have to look, I mean, it could be even in Junction Place, and we need to be able to have those laws around moving these people on. So it's not about homelessness, it's about having what we need in place to keep our community safe, but also with a, you know, a sympathetic tone to moving on the people and getting them the right agencies to hook into. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor. From our service catalogue, we had a brief discussion of two services that we have: environmental health and population health. Are those services guided by this document? And should we ever choose to have a look and change or review those services, will we have to go back to this local law and review that? In short, are they connected, and is there any impediment of looking at one without looking at the other?
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Our service catalogue includes all of our services across the organisation, and wherever we choose to resolve to change that service level, then our service catalogue will be updated in line with that. There are, as you've described, a lot of intermixing and a web behind the scenes in that, in different documents that feed together to form that. So one decision does actually impact on a lot of our other strategies as well, and we will look to bring that together. Thank you.
Other councillors? That's it. Back to Councillor Poulton, you're reserved.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before I start my timer, just a question through you to the CEO, if I could, if that's okay. Yeah. Just to set at ease the community, Mr. CEO, about council's handling of homelessness in our city, and what people don't see, because they see council finding someone homeless, that's a good headline, that sells papers. But what they don't see is the amount of policies we have in the background. Can I just get a snapshot of some of those intertwining web of policies that actually support people that are going through homelessness in Wodonga?
Mr. CEO, through you to the Director.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. We have three main documents. The first one is a Municipal Public Health Plan, and that sets a framework, and it provides a link to our Wodonga housing strategy, which is quite an in-depth strategy that does cover homelessness in some detail. We also have our safety, inclusion and equity strategy as well, which has a whole priority section on homelessness. And I guess what it does is it points to council's role in homelessness, and its primary role is to work in partnership with other agencies, so those agencies that people have been talking about tonight, and also to advocate on behalf of our community, but in support of those agencies that do the heavy lifting for us. Also to ensure that we have the most updated data, so that informs our responses and where we need to concentrate our efforts on that. And the other one is how we plan our city and look at how we increase those pathways into housing. So there's quite a bit of work that we do. A lot of it is strategic, but we rely on our partner agencies to do a lot of that heavy lifting.
Thank you, Director. You wish to speak, Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and yes, start the timer. I already knew most of those answers provided by our officers, but not always does the community get to see or hear that full explanation. They're not going to pick up several hundred pages of reports each month. They act off what they see and hear. Often it's a third or fourth hand sort of whisper they hear from someone's opinion, maybe around the water cooler in a workplace or at school pickup or drop off. At the end of the day, as Councillor Chamberlain pointed out at the start, you know, as far as we can tell from history, no one's been issued a fine or an infringement under this particular part of the historical law. And he did correctly paint the picture of, if you didn't have the law, what would happen to our city and potentially to society. I'd hazard a guess that most of us have broken laws multiple times throughout our lives and not even known it. But let me tell you, if we were a nuisance to society and a police officer in that instance, or perhaps in a council, needed something there to leverage to say, hey, that's not acceptable in this community, then there'd be something there. Without that, the poor enforcer would be standing there going, well, I've got unhappy people, or perhaps in worst case scenarios without laws, a fatality or something like that, and there's nothing I can do to prevent the next one happening, and there's nothing I can do to make everybody as close to happy as possible. So well done to councillors of many years past, and following suit of other councils, no doubt, around the country that at times might have copped criticism on something like this. The one bit that I do note is interesting. Some of that public flack that we've copped as a council has been from agencies that have asked us for support before, that I've sat in this very room in my councillor term finding solutions and support for them to help homeless people in the community and to get lower income and affordable housing in this city as well. So I will take that a little bit personally when that criticism is levelled at an organisation that I'm a part of, despite the fact that that same organisation that I've been a part of has tried to help as much as we could in the past. So this will receive my support, and I'm glad we've had that conversation on record. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Yeah, thank you. I think we've covered the homeless side of things, which was obviously one of the controversial points. There are a number of other laws there. One other area that I'm, can I say, a little uncomfortable with, but I'm sure will be the subject of review in an ongoing basis, was the local parks in which we permit the consumption of alcohol between sunrise and sunset. Can I claim that I am guilty? I, amongst with virtually all of my family, have had a couple of beers in a park named after my father on Father's Day after his passing. And in those sort of circumstances, I think it's entirely appropriate to have a barbecue and a drink. We didn't get out of control, and while people can continue to do that, I think it's appropriate that they're able to do that. Having said that, I think we need to monitor that behaviour, and if it gets out of hand, if necessary, make the adjustments that we need to make. Having said that, I think what's been said around the table has been entirely appropriate, and I think this law is entirely appropriate, and obviously I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item of business is item 8.6, Baranduda Fields Precinct, new road name proposal. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Hall, do I have a seconder? Councillor Poulton, Councillor Hall.
Okay. In our council meeting back 16th of October 2023, we resolved to adopt the road names for the two public roads within the Baranduda Fields precinct. But when the names were sent to the Register of Geographic Names Victoria, Council was informed on the 24th of January 24 that the road name Champion Crescent was rejected due to its similarity and duplication of Champions Drive in Glenroy, Albury. As a P&C committee member, we are usually aware of other similar names and take care not to duplicate them. And this one slipped through. It's important that we don't have duplications for reasons that our emergency services need to be able to know where to go without mix-ups happening. Albury's so close that these things can happen. This must have slipped through our assessment. Council officers have therefore put up a new name proposal, that being Triumph Crescent, which has sort of got a similarity to it. If adopted, this will go out for community engagement. Maybe someone else might come up with a better name, but I'm happy to go forward with this. If submissions are received, the submissions will come back up to council for consideration. If no submissions are received, the proposed name will be forwarded to the registrar to undertake the gazettal process. So pretty self-explanatory, but it's just a shame it's had to come back up again to council. So thank you.
Councillor Poulton.
Just the fact that we got something successfully happening cross-border there, I think is something we should all celebrate. The fact that they checked Albury's names off against what we proposed to do in Wodonga, isn't that wonderful? Yet the other day when I made an emergency phone call, I got put through to a New South Wales agency to talk to them about my problem in Wodonga. But anyway, it's sensible. Well done to those that have been part of the place naming committee for some time now. And thanks to Councillor Hall for chairing that. It is frustrating when you don't get things through first go, so it's going to have my support. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'll be supporting this on the basis of it needs to go out to consultation. We're going to give the public a second go at thinking of a better name if they want to. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more feedback on this one. I don't have a problem with the name that has been suggested. I have thoughts about what I maybe would name it, but I don't know that that would carry much weight. But yeah, I'll be supporting it accordingly, and it is going out for consultation, and the public will get to have their say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
As per most of mine tonight, they all come last minute. This one, I think, when you're asking people about names, everyone's going to have a different opinion. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Even when you're trying to pick colours, if you both agree on orange, someone wants a different shade of orange than the other. So it really doesn't matter what name is come up with. You're either going to like it or not like it, or like 90% of people out there are not even going to know about this until the name's on the street sign up out there. But while we are talking about out there, a few of the reasons why you can't use athletes of today, there's a few laws around in the place's name committee why you can't use people that are alive or anything like that, and I won't go into depth about that. But wouldn't it be great on that entrance driveway out there to have a board of honour or something like that of athletes from our region as we drive into there? So it's slightly off topic, but I thought I'd bring it up here.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. I'm sure you'll put that in the formal processes into our CEO. Other councillors? Councillor? No? Back to Councillor Hall to close.
No, I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We're up to item 9, reports for noting, of which there are none. Reports for information. Any councillors wish to raise anything in regard to 10.1, record of councillor meetings? Anything in regard to the decisions register at 10.2? And 10.3, council plan progress report. And 10.4, Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee minutes. Any reference to the minutes? No? There are no notices of motion. General business, I refer to the CEO for an item of general business that he wishes to speak to.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. On this sad occasion, I'd like to wish our condolences to the family of late Brian Beach, who tragically passed away as a valued member of the City of Wodonga staff, looking out for the youth and the future of our community. On Friday, the celebration of his life, our thoughts are with his family, his friends and his colleagues. He was a valued member of staff and will be missed by the school supervisor, crossing staff, and all of our other staff, councillors and volunteers. Rest in peace, Brian Beach.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Any other general business from councillors? Councillor Poulton.
Just want to acknowledge the work in the community done for the City to City that was run on the weekend. I had the duties of collecting children at the finish line, and whilst I, when given that duty, was dreading the thought of what traffic control and what plans the council had assisted those organisers with over the years in refining that over a decade, it was smooth sailing straight into the centre of town. Called them, told them to come get me. So it just shows when. No doubt our events team and our officers, probably our traffic crew and things like that, work with community organisations. Great things can be achieved even cross-border. So just a note of thanks, not just to the community-led campaign of putting that event together, but particularly council staff that would have worked in with them over the decade of again trying to help a good health service.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Other councillors? Urgent business. We have an item before us that we need to either accept or not accept as urgent business. Councillor Chamberlain.
Can I move that we accept the item to be dealt with in urgent business?
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lowe, Councillor Chamberlain.
This is an item that's come up late. It's time sensitive, so I think it's appropriate that it be dealt with here tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Lowe. Any other comment? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimous that the matter be accepted for dealing with as urgent business. Do I have a motion in respect to the proposed land sale at Logic for Vic Cairns Australia Proprietary Limited? Do I have Councillor Hall? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Poulton. Councillor Hall.
I just move this as recommended in the report. It's the proposed sale of land to Vic Cairns Australia Proprietary Limited at Logic, out at Logic. This authorisation gives the CEO the authority to sign all documents as required at the sale, including under the Section 173 agreement. I think it's another sale that is needed and is great to have. So yeah, I very much support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Great to see a process has been followed where we've been able to, with this one, we've been able to share it with the community with the purchaser's approval. Obviously, not everything in terms of transactions goes that way from the get-go, as will be seen this evening in our camera session. But happy to support this one, and as Councillor Hall said, it's good to see traction. I feel like we've probably had more traction in Logic in the last 3 years than we have in the entire time of its existence in terms of interest and things like that. So happy to see this one head on through. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'll be supporting this recommendation. Again, as Councillor Poulton pointed out, it's good to see some traction out at Logic. Logic is basically still struggling financially to pay its way. It is developing and we are starting to move some things that hopefully means a bright future for it in that purpose. The people of Wodonga have been carrying this development, and it's absolutely critical, I think, that the development does come to an end at some stage where things are financially paying back the people of Wodonga for their, their patience, to be honest. There's been a lot of money borrowed out there and a lot of money spent, and we've been selling bits and pieces as we can, and the need for more works out there in the process of allowing for future development mean that basically the money that's been brought in by the sales has been eaten up in future works. But if we can start to get some real traction, and this, as you say, is starting to happen, and I think the decision made by the council a while ago to engage a commercial real estate agent and help to push this and get it out into the vision of people around the country means that what is a very practical area for commercial development out at Logic is starting to get the traction it deserves, and hopefully this is only the beginning of a lot more of these sales. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
It's probably just worth noting that whilst infrastructure-wise, you make a purchase, you spend some, sell some, spend some, sell some to keep it going. The few hundred jobs out there now will be the big part that the community will be saying thank you, because all those wage earnings that are out there will go around the community about 4 or 5 times. So whilst the development side of things might take a bit to catch up and you've got to continue to reinvest out there, the amount of money that it's generated for our community already would surpass what we've spent. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Other councillors? Councillor Hall to close.
Yes, I agree with what the other councillors have said. Look, this council has worked very hard to get us into a position where we are getting offers to purchase. We have probably sold more than we ever have in the last few years. It's vital because we need more commercial rate revenue to help to build this city. And, you know, Logic is starting to really show some results. So I'm really pleased for this sale to go ahead, and, yeah, it's a good outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14 is confidential business. Thank you to the media. Do I have a motion to go into camera? Councillor Poulton, do I have a seconder? Councillor Chamberlain. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Welcome back after our closed session. We have firstly to Mr. CEO to read out the public recommend. I'll move to accept first, sorry. Move to adopt the in-camera recommendations. Councillor Poulton, Councillor Chamberlain. All those in favour? Done. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to item 14.4, extensions of timelines, Formula Forage Lot 1, the public component of the recommendation is that the Council authorises the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate and enter into an amended Heads of Agreement to reflect a 12-month extension to the timelines relevant to the first right of refusal for the proposal to purchase Lot 1 on PS 823624V. 2. The subject land amended Heads of Agreement being entered into. The Wodonga Council gives notice, if required under Section 114 of the Local Government Act, that intends to extend the first right of refusal period by 12 months. That the public notice stipulates the persons may make submissions in respect to the proposal in accordance with the Council's community engagement policy, and that written submissions must be received no later than the date, which is 21 days after the date of publication of the public notice. And 4, the Council receives a further report upon completion of the public notice period to determine whether to proceed with the timeline extension request or not. In relation to item 14.5, Globird Energy Exclusivity Agreement, the public component of the recommendation, the resolution, is the Council authorises the Chief Executive Officer to enter into an exclusivity agreement with Globird Energy or a related party purchaser for the exclusive rights to 0.74 hectares of Lot 7 PS 823624 off Baxter Whelan Road, Baranduda North, adjacent to the power station. 2, subject to paragraph 1 above, the land subject to the exclusivity agreement be progressed on the following key terms. A, payment of an exclusivity fee of 30,000 plus GST for an exclusivity period of 3 years paid annually in advance. And C, B, all terms and conditions within the exclusivity agreement are met. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. There being no further business. There being no further business, 16.3, I close the meeting at 8:10.
Beautifully stretched.